Digital Marketing Radio, episode 121. Why ugly never wins and what to do about it.
DigitalMarketingRadio.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by Aweber. Build your email list, engage your subscribers, do email the right way. I've arranged a special deal for all Digital Marketing Radio listeners, and that's a 60-day free trial with the email marketing software provider I use, Aweber. Lock in your 60-day free trial, plus download a free guide to getting started with email at aweber.com/DMR. That's aweber.com/DMR to get started today.
The big interview with David Bain.
My guest today builds brands for TV personalities, experts, and entrepreneurs. You've seen his clients on television, including Shark Tank, Dancing with the Stars, and X Factor. He's also author of a book called Shut Up and Tweet. Welcome to DMR, Phil Pallen.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so impressed with your setup. You know what's going on here. You're on the ball.
It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all smoke and mirrors, but those smoke and mirrors work most of the time.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, you can find Phil over at philpallen.co if you'd like to get in touch. But Phil, is this ugly people or ugly websites that you're referring to?
Yes, ugly never wins is the topic for today, and that's my topic at New Media Europe. I think it worked. It's to grab your attention, but really referred to in this case, people's brands, and not just the visuals, but also the idea. My bio is on Twitter, kind of hints at this, but I'm always kind of trying to figure out, what I can do to help people build a brand that's going to work, that's going to be sustainable, that's going to be memorable, because there's a lot of people creating content on the web. How do we, create a brand that's going to rise above the noise? So that's really what I mean by that. Not just ugly physically, but no, a brand that's going to really help someone build something exciting, that's going to ideally turn their hobby into a career.
Okay, so you're not favoring beautiful people then?
No, I mean, sometimes maybe in my close group of friends. No, just kidding.
Okay, what is an ugly brand then? What's the characteristics of an ugly brand?
Oh, great question. An ugly brand is something that someone does for themselves. So they've taken a hobby, something that they do that they get enjoyment out of, and they've created what they think is a brand or a business that's going to help all kinds of people. Let me give you an example. Someone wants to open up a restaurant or a coffee shop. Since we're drinking coffee, David Bain, since it's 7:53 a.m. on the West Coast, an ugly brand is something someone does for themselves without really giving consideration into what people need. So they create a coffee shop, they put it right beside a Starbucks, and they do it because it's something they've always wanted to do. But then it goes out of business within 6 months because they don't satisfy a need. I'm constantly trying to tell people that if your brand is set up to help people with something they need, not just a want. People don't really budget for wants once in a while, but everything that they buy or consume or purchase, it is a need. It must be something people need. So an ugly brand is something we do for ourselves. A beautiful brand is something that's set up to serve others. So really, truly, I shocked you in that it has nothing yet to do with the visuals. The visuals play an important role when we're building something that people remember or something people notice. But certainly the foundation of all of this is business. I always say branding is business. I don't just make something look pretty and send them off. We work on the branding, the visual, the build, and then promote it using intelligent strategies. So it's twofold.
So I'm going to have to cross out all my questions here. I had a load of questions about why do you not like ugly people? But
Yeah.
no, I'm kidding. Okay, is it then possible for an ugly brand to turn into a beautiful brand?
Of course, but the person who's at the helm needs to be open to constructive feedback. That's usually what I'm watching for. If someone calls me and says, Phil, I really need your help. I have this business, I have this product. whatever it is, they call me. I'm a brand strategist. And if they're defensive, if they are completely self-absorbed, or they think what they have is fantastic and they're not really open to any kind of changes, then that's not the type of client I'm going to work with. The most success that I have are with people that come to me that trust me from the beginning. I mean, it's a collaborative process, so I don't take it over and say, it's still their brand. They still have to be responsible for the day to day. But certainly, we work on it together, but people need to have the right mindset in order to adjust it and change it into something that's going to be beautiful if it's not from the start.
So does a brand have to reflect the owner's personality, or can you actually create a completely separate personality for the brand that doesn't necessarily reflect the personality of the founder?
It's always going to depend on the project. So even to give like a general answer on that, it would be tricky because it really depends specifically on exactly what it is we're marketing. But 9 times out of 10, David, I would say harnessing the personality is the opportunity you have to stand out. So usually, yes. I mean, if it's a product, if you're a consultant, if the offering is based around you and what you do, then there's a way that you do it that's unique. And we need to isolate exactly what that is and build that into the strategy of, this is part of what makes this offering unique. Whereas if it's, or if a lot of people are juggling multiple businesses, and so you're not going to have like, the same kind of brand personality built across the board, depending on what it is you're creating. So it always depends on the project specifically, but yes, personality, even with a product, is one way of standing out. A lot of people don't put a lot of energy into that, and people should. Building a brand voice, having a consistent brand identity, colors, typography, multiple logo compositions, all of these things people don't give enough time and energy to, when really it's something that helps you clarify your message down the line.
And when you're talking about brand there, you're obviously talking about a company identity, but can an individual behind that company be a brand themselves as well? Because I know that you actually...
Yeah. I
So
mean, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, no, but I was just going to say, I said at the start that you obviously have clients that have appeared in quite a few different television programs. So if that's the case, then obviously you would have assisted them, I would imagine, with helping to present themselves in a more effective manner. So do you get them thinking like a brand themselves?
Yeah, that's it. No, it's a really interesting question because from the start, my work has always been focused on personal branding. I've always worked, from the start with celebrities, experts, entrepreneurs, individuals. And since I've established that focus for my business, I've also attracted a fair bit of attention from companies, corporations that are like, wow, this is a breath of fresh air. And they get excited because the companies know they need to personify nowadays. They need to, even for a big company where there's a lot of people involved, it's becoming more important for us to develop personality and have that kind of transparency. So I've been speaking, I just, a few weeks back was in Japan, speaking at doing a keynote at a conference, a branding conference, and it was all the top companies, corporations in Japan, and they were really interested in exactly this topic. How do you use branding, even the idea of personal branding within a corporate structure, to start to build that kind of transparency that is online? You can, sometimes it helps us, sometimes it hinders us, but certainly for a company to invest in building an identity or a presence around some of their key personnel or the personalities behind the brand. Some brands have done that very successfully. So companies are watching closely to go, how do we, instead of creating something fake like a mascot, how do we leverage the people behind the brand and use that as a method of storytelling? That's a really interesting avenue of personal branding right now as it plays with companies.
Okay. So drilling into the characteristics behind a really effective personal brand, if you're putting yourself out there, if you're going for interviews, what are the kind of traits that you need to have to carry yourself well and to come across as being a great personal brand?
Unlike a lot of branding experts, I don't put a lot of time and energy into developing a creative little brand archetype. To me, that's just a waste of time. What I'm always trying to do is take inventory of what we're working with. Who's the client? What flavor do we get from them when we have an in-person conversation? I remember meeting you in London a few months back,
Hmm.
right? And so I can remember our meeting and just like meeting anyone for the first time, you are face to face. You absorb, their content, the way that they speak, what they're talking about, the way they say it. Um, those little nuances you get face to face. If we can focus on how we communicate conversationally and take inventory of your personality as others consume it, and to be self-aware of that, that's the key. To answer your question, it's about being self-aware. It's not just about having, sticking to your guns and being specifically this personality type. It's more about taking inventory of you, knowing how you present yourself and how others consume you, and to always reinforce that brand, but really just be yourself. Technology is now in the way of that in-person experience, right? So
Hmm.
like I say, when you and I met, I remember that. I remember chatting, and it's different than this because we've got cameras and we've got microphones and we've got all of these, pieces of technology to help make this as natural as it is in real life. It never will be. So we have to adjust. We have to use technology to recreate that in person experience. And so I always say the best branding is when we recreate the in person experience as closely as possible. So it's not about being anything, any specific, trait or adjective. It's about being you and using technology to work for you, not against.
Hmm. But I mean, I love the fact that at least we can see each other face to face here,
Hmm.
because a lot of podcast interviews are conducted over audio on Skype, and it's more difficult, I think, to actually have a more natural conversation like that, because at least I can see you when you're perhaps finishing your point, and we're more likely to have a natural conversation than just listening to you and not being able to see how you feel passionately about whatever you're saying.
Definitely. I agree with you 100%.
Hmm. Okay. So it sounds like what you said was basically it's very important just to be as natural as possible, to have that natural conversation and don't have a goal in mind. Don't initiate a conversation with a view to an outcome that you've actually thought of beforehand. You just need to actually have a natural conversation and see what happens.
Yeah, it should always be exactly what you would do in real life. That's the way that that's how we do it in real life. And there should be no exception to that. It's just, however you do it, it's just about taking inventory of that, knowing, being self aware of your style, your content, and then being able to execute that online is typically how brands are able to grow and engage people in the most efficient way.
It reminds me of the kind of mistakes that people make on Twitter. And obviously, as I've seen in a video of you already, saying that broadcasting is probably the biggest mistake that people make on Twitter, and not interacting with people. Just, and you wouldn't do that face to face. You wouldn't jump in there and say, "This is me. This is what I'm about. Here's a business card. Bye bye. I'm off to meet someone else."
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it is. It is. And people who use Twitter just to tell everyone what they're doing. This is what I'm having for breakfast, and this is what I'm having for lunch. And I feel like jumping in and saying, no one cares. If you were having this conversation in real life, you'd be having it with yourself. Unless, of course, your brand is food. If your brand is food, then that changes the game. But you always have to be aware of what others think and what it is people want from you. And this plays into all, not just Twitter, but all of your social media platforms. Really, every single social media platform needs to have a purpose. So a perfect example of this was me actually in January on Pinterest. I was pinning examples of branding. I was pinning all my favorite travel destinations, the whole range of things, until I stopped and went, Phil, maybe you should listen to your own advice. What would I tell someone else about this? I would say focus. No one cares if your brand isn't travel. No one cares where you want to go for all your favorite, possible travel destinations. No one cares. People want from me, they want examples of branding. They want good business cards, websites, logos, advertising, print, all these kinds of things that I absorb every single day as a brand strategist as I'm designing brands. So I repositioned my Pinterest. I went from 800 followers to 10,000 this month. We just passed. So, I've given the platform purpose. People find it useful. They share it with others. It becomes a tool not only for me, a resource when I go to start a branding project, but it also becomes a resource for other people. And that's the whole point.
Okay. And one of the things that a brand or a business leader wants to do is build relationships with authorities within their industry sector. What would you say are some of the better ways to actually start to reach out to authorities within the industry sector to get noticed, but without selling themselves in an overt way?
Yeah, when you sell yourself, it comes across as desperate. It's kind of like, it's never received well, even if this person is a casting director or someone that is used to having these types of interactions. It's not cute. It's desperate. And so the beauty is we have all of this available to us. For the most part, using the internet, using social media. If you don't know someone's email, you can usually guess it based on their brand or their website and their
Mm.
name. You can always try it. I've done that many times with success. You can, but even better, use LinkedIn and use Twitter to not Facebook, because Facebook it's used actually differently in different countries. So when I was in Japan, they use Facebook like LinkedIn, which I thought was interesting. Facebook's used for business, and other platforms are used for more personal stuff. But I know in the UK and in North America, Facebook's kind of our close knit group of friends. But Twitter and LinkedIn are places where networking and meeting strangers is encouraged. And so to try and track down, the person that you're trying to get in touch with, rather than just, sending them a message that is very salesy, I would instead focus on starting a conversation. So retweet something that they've said. It like if you went up to someone that you're trying to impress or trying to start a conversation, you may even say a compliment. That's what you would do in real life. So do it online. I love your tweets. I'm so impressed with your perspective on entrepreneurship. Whatever it is. I get to experience this when I'm involved with the social media strategy of some of my clients. My clients, they often call me to be on hand or on the phone with them while they're on network TV if their episode is airing. So part of my job is to absorb everything that's coming in terms of content and tweets and buzz. And so I'm often the one that is involved with deciding what gets retweeted, what gets favorited, what gets replied to, and what gets ignored. Most stuff gets ignored. So what does it take to get noticed by someone who's an influencer? A lot of times it's across the board, it's always different, but across the board, it's someone who puts a little bit of time and effort into that message beyond just, tweeting whatever comes to mind first. It's someone who puts some serious thought into that to start a conversation, to say something positive. If you put the effort into that, you'd be amazed at how many retweets and how many responses you'll get from the people you want. That's helping to build that kind of authority rather than being the desperate one that goes up and says, "Oh, this is what I need from you." Again, it's not about you. You want to play hard to get. You want that influencer to see you and go, "Oh, this person looks really interesting." So your picture should look good. Your content should be consistent and should be on brand. Your Twitter bio needs to be on point. All of those elements will work together. You've got to have followers. All of those elements work together to reinforce that first impression, which is what we're crafting.
Absolutely. A lot of great tips there. I can completely concur with that. It's funny, actually, the most effective way for me to actually build that relationship is to actually say to someone that I respect within the digital marketing sphere, is to say to them, "Can I interview you for Digital Marketing Radio?" And that is really, really effective, because then obviously I can spend half an hour with someone and have a wonderful conversation with them, and they can get to know me more, I can get to know them more, and then we'll be more willing to help each other out in the future.
You know what? It's a really good point, and it's something I tell people to do often. Living in LA, I work a lot with TV hosts, personalities, people that are building their platform. So if they're not working on TV yet, they want to be working on TV. So I tell them to build their own show, their own platform like this. Digital Marketing Radio is your platform. And so rather, say BBC, notices what you're doing and says, "God, we'd love to have this on our network." They're not coming to you saying, "David Bain, tell us your idea. Tell us your idea for a radio show or a podcast." They don't care about your idea. We're too busy for ideas. We need to see something executed, something to see where it starts and to see where it is now, to see that kind of progress. So I tell my host this all the time. Rather than emailing someone and saying, for me, I would love to talk to you because I'll get so much insight from you and I want you to hire me and I'm so great, blah, blah, blah. No one cares. Those emails get pushed right to the bottom. And I get a lot of emails that I just don't have time to give, with someone that I don't even know. Whereas if someone emails me and says, "Phil, I love your perspective on branding. I'd love to feature you on my podcast." I'll tell you something. I'm not even going to look up their podcast to see how big and fancy it is. I will say yes. And even if it takes a few weeks to set up an interview, that's what we'll do. Because you've now, with this exact same request, in many ways, you've shared the spotlight. You've given you've put the focus on me because this will benefit me in some way. And I build into my schedule, I always make time for podcasts, because it's good for me. It's fun. I get to meet all kinds of interesting people. Podcast interviews have helped me land speaking engagements all around the world. And I'm always going to make time for them. And so it's brilliant. It's just a brilliant way of marketing yourself because you're creating content with purpose. This is going to be beneficial for the people who are listening. It keeps you on top of your game, having to conduct interviews and ask questions and make sure the content is interesting at all times and to guide that conversation. And then you have something physical that you can show for your brand, your expertise. So it's actually a really, really smart way of marketing a business.
And even if you don't have a definitive end in mind, you're still developing your own skills as well. I mean, I'm definitely better at presenting than I was in episode 1, episode 120 now, but I'm not the finished article yet, but I am a lot better. And I know that when the opportunity arises to do big speeches or to be invited on big radio stations, then I would be able to do that because of the experience that I've built up.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's just confidence, and it's you being confident in your delivery and your content and what you've learned along the way, that it becomes really, really beneficial for sure. For sure. It's a really smart way to go about doing it.
Great. Okay, well, let's segue into the second section of our discussion. So that focuses more on your thoughts on where digital marketing's been and where it's heading. So starting off with,
Software I couldn't live without.
so what software do you currently use in your business that if someone took away from you, it would significantly impact your marketing success?
If someone took these away from me, I would smack them.
Not too loud.
Yeah. What would I? Okay, software. Well, I use Google Apps a lot. So for my email, I rely on them. For Google Docs. Even me being so specific about having everything look good, I've spent a lot of time customizing templates that I use within my business on Google Docs because I find it to be the most amazing collaborative platform. My team and I will work together. All three, four of us will work together on a single doc and have it done in 20 minutes as opposed to 2 hours spent back and forth by email. So I love Google Docs. I use some really cool software that I should use this opportunity to share to create invoices for my small business. I use Billings Pro. And the reason I use this above other options is because the templates are fully customizable. The templates are fully customizable. So all of my invoices look hot and branded, which is these are what my dreams are made of. I also use Evernote a lot to capture my ideas for some of my more creative projects and to keep things in order for my business. So when it doesn't go into Google Docs, or Google Drive, it goes into Evernote. So payroll, receipts, ideas for podcasts, ideas for webisodes, videos, all these types of things. I use Evernote, and then I'll give you one more.
Okay.
I love Pinterest secret boards. So I have a few secret boards that other people are not privy to seeing unless I've added them onto that specific board, where I encourage everyone to do this. At one time or another, you're going to need to create something that's more creative. So it could be, a title page for a book, or it could be a website where rather than just going, what is it I like? What I want you to do is create a secret Pinterest board called On Brand. This is where you will basically pin anything you see online that you love. It could be an advertisement, like a little, like a big box ad or a leaderboard ad online, on some website. Could be a Facebook ad. It could be a website. Just take a screen cap of the website, upload it into your secret Pinterest board called On Brand. And this will become such an amazing reference once you get 50 to 100 plus pins in there, because it'll give you so many ideas on fonts and colors and layouts when you go to create your creative project. So it's just kind of rather than going, oh God, I have to have a website done in a month. What's it going to look like? I don't know. Let's throw something together. Start to take inventory of your tastes and what grabs your attention online and what other people are spending a lot of time and money developing, so that you can look and see what's working best. Take a little bit from all of those elements. That's called creativity and originality. Take inventory of all of that and pull something together unique that represents you based on what you've seen online over time. That is one of the most powerful tips that I can give people. It's a secret Pinterest board. No one else can see it. So you can add in whatever you want. And by the end of it, you'll have a really awesome secret Pinterest board.
I'm not sure what you're going to say in the rest of the discussion, but I completely agree with you. I reckon that's the most powerful tip you're going to deliver today.
Well, yeah. I mean, I always tell people how it is. So probably people are going to be like, oh God, I hope this isn't a hobby. I hope this is a business. I already defined the difference between hobby, something you do for yourself. Brand is business. A brand is something you do for others. It's a very simple formula. Your brand is something you love with something others need. Something you love with others need. So hopefully they're brainstorming on a piece of paper to figure out what that is if they don't know what it is. But yes, the secret Pinterest board is, I need to write a book about branding. I have a book about social media, but that's on my list of things I need to do and start over the next year. And that's one of them. I'll have a whole chapter dedicated to all these little systems that you should have in place that will help you build your brand organically without having to set aside hours. 15 minutes a day, do this, do this, do this, do this. That's kind of what I am always developing and pioneering in a way, because we're going to get busier, and your time, as your business grows, you only have so much time. And time is the limited resource that we're all competing for, people's attention. And so how do you use your time in a way that's going to allow you to have a life and allow you to sleep, so you can perform your best, and it's a balance, but to have these little systems set up along the way. I think the software, as you mentioned, the software is key into that, using platforms that work for you.
Well, I'll tell you what, Phil, I'm getting together actually with some leading podcasters here in the UK, and we're starting a new podcast called Business Book of the Month. So anyone listening can go to businessbookofthemonth.com. And the reason I'm saying that is, if you write your book on branding, we will feature that as the Business Book of the Month, and we'll discuss it. And I'm sure it'll be a wonderful read.
I love it. I definitely will. I've already started it. I don't have a title or anything like that, but to talk about books, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are listening that already have one or they're thinking about it. When I went to write my book, I had no idea what I was doing. And now it's something I've helped many of my clients with. I've got a few actually like original drafts of books sitting on my desk from clients where people haven't even seen it. It's either in like a Word doc printed out with all kinds of, scribbles, or sometimes I have like the first draft with the creative and layout done. But when I went to make a book, I had a few years of teaching behind that. So in LA, I taught at a school for TV hosts. And over the course of 2 years, I worked with over 1,000 TV hosts to help them build their brand. I reached out to a group of them and said, what was the most useful thing you ever learned from me? Rather than me sitting here thinking about what I wanted to write on and what excited me, I don't matter. Who matters are the people that I've taught and who have learned from me and are using the strategies they've learned. And most of them said, Phil, your strategy for Twitter has helped me grow my followers to thousands. And it's giving me the structure that I needed to be able to actually exist on Twitter and use it as a powerful platform within my business. So that's why my book is about Twitter. Even though now within my agency, there are two of us. My partner, Lauren, handles a lot of the social media strategy where it allows me to focus more on the branding. That's why I have a book about Twitter, because it was the most useful thing that people had learned from me at that point in time. And now, so that's why my book is about Twitter. The next one will definitely be about branding.
I'm sure you've got a few books inside you.
Yes, I hope so. I think so.
Okay, let's move on to a slightly more challenging question. So that's what piece of software don't you use, but you've heard good things about and you intend to try at some point in the near future?
Yeah, I've thought about trying Infusionsoft. I know that that's a platform people pay a lot of money for, but it becomes pretty useful in terms of managing your lists and all of that stuff. If there's one area that I'm not very good at, it's email marketing. You mentioned Aweber off the top. I know people use Aweber. I know people use MailChimp, Constant Contact. That's kind of on my list for 2015 projects to get a handle on. My email marketing has been weaker than even a lot of what my clients are doing. And I don't know. I hate getting emails. I use emails as my to-do list, and maybe that's what ruined it for me. But when I get an email from someone that's trying to sell me something, I want to go find them in real life and smack them. I don't want emails. I unsubscribe to at least 10 lists that somehow I magically appear on every single day. I hate emails because emails mean that I have to do something instead of going and spending that time on the beach. I live like 5 blocks away from the beach in Santa Monica. I don't want to be reading emails or buying anything, but I end up on these lists. And so I've always kind of had a negative impression of email. And so that is probably the block, even though I know that it's so powerful. That's probably my block, is like, I need to get over that and start to send emails. I just have a hard time thinking, I know how much I hate email. I don't know why anyone on earth would want an email from me.
Are you building a list at the moment?
Yeah, I am building a list on my website, not super aggressively. But I mean, my social media speaks for itself. I mean, my list is not huge. I love when people are like, oh my gosh, my list is so small. I have like no one on there. I have like 5,000. I'm 10,000 people. I'm like, oh God, I don't even come close to that. But when you look at my social media platforms, I have 10,000 on Pinterest. I have 40,000 on Twitter. That's where I have focused. I just am not a fan of email marketing. So, but I'm acknowledging to you that I know it's something that I need to start to build. And that's probably specific to software. That's what I'll be. I'm on MailChimp now and I do enjoy it. I like that it's a really easy branded interface to navigate. But that's something that I know I need to explore a little more.
I tell you what, I'm on your site at the moment, philpallen.co, and it took me a while to find where to opt in to your email list.
So let me tell you why. I actually took, for the last year or so, I had an opt-in and a free 7-day course where people could sign up, and for 7 days they would get an email from me with something to think about as they build their brand. I didn't call it like a free download. I didn't call it a free report. I didn't do any of that. I called it a course. This is an e-series that you can subscribe to, and you'll get something to think about every single day. And people loved it. But I then rebranded a few months ago, and I haven't had time yet to update it. So you know me, OCD perfectionist, perfectionist paralysis. Instead of just leaving it or setting aside a few hours over a weekend, I'm like, no, I need to revamp the whole thing. It needs to come off. And so that's at my own fault. I should still have it on there. But it used to be plastered. I had little pop-ups and all that kind of stuff. But I've kind of taken it off until I can do it right. But I think there's something to be said about that, though, waiting to do it right. People watch me because they know I'm like the branding guy. They're like, what's he doing? So anything I do, I want to make sure it's done really, really well. And
just look at your audio kit as well. I mean, you can see from that. I mean, you didn't start podcasting until you had everything.
David Bain, I got this a week ago. I have all these little things that are flashing and buttons and lights and green lights and red lights. I don't know what any of these mean, but that's exactly what I did. Was I reached out to mutual friends of ours and said, hey, actually, Mike Russell is one of them from New Media Europe. I said, Mike Russell, tell me what to get. And he's, a few people were like, well, Phil, start with this microphone. I'm like, Phil's not starting with a microphone. Tell me all the top things so that it can look and sound perfect. That excites me to create it. And I want it to be perfect.
Yeah, well, your audio sounds perfect. It really does. It's not just about having the right microphone. It's about setting up correctly. And you've got all the settings right. Definitely, I can hear that.
Good. I appreciate that. I so appreciate that because I was so freaked out. It was a Sunday afternoon, and I was like, okay, I have everything. But what I did, I actually went to Mike Russell's YouTube channel, and he has all kinds of tutorials on setting up the preamp and all of that, the audio interface. And I even learned a few tips in Adobe Audition. Are you not impressed? I've been building it, all my podcasts, recording and editing in Adobe Audition. And I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm learning.
It's wonderful. And I love editing my own podcast myself as well. I think it's a great way not only to actually learn how to edit, but also to help you improve in your presentation as well, going back to that, because you hear yourself and you hear yourself going, and you improve because of it.
I am going to get to the point. I loved how you already actually play the little sound effects as we record so that this becomes so much easier to edit when it gets to that place. I'm not there yet. I literally, to go back to what we said at the beginning, which was record and have a conversation with someone. So I've not even done formal intros yet for my podcast. I flip on the microphone. Sometimes I'm interviewing people who are not as comfortable. Some of them are. I work with hosts, and I've interviewed a few of them that are really interesting. And so the microphone goes on, and they're on, and they know how to give a good sound bite and all of that. But others, I've really wanted to just have a conversation. And I'm like, you know what? I'll go back, and that's the beauty of audio. You can edit, you can add in, you can do so much that you can't do with video. I'll go back and make it fancy. But for now, I just want to have a really good conversation, something I would want to listen to. But I know I'll definitely get to the point where it's all fancy like yours. 100 episodes or 120 episodes down. I mean, you learn a lot along the way of
You do,
creating that.
you do, you do. And talking about sound effects,
I wish I would have.
I'd like you to look back on the very first day you're involved in trying to market a business online. What
Mm.
didn't you do so well? What do you wish that you would have done differently?
I've learned a lot this year, 2015. I've learned a lot about delegating. And my background is different than people that do branding or social media in an agency setting. So at the ripe old age of 26, I have worked for 4 years building my small business, building my branding and social media agency. There's a lot that I have tackled on my own instead of, hiring it out or delegating others to help me with it. So, what I wish I would have done differently, I wish that I would have started delegating sooner because it's taken me a little bit longer to build and learn certain things. Now, I mean, still that's small. I'm really proud of everything that I've done from the start. I mean, to be able to rock a niche from the very beginning
Mm.
without having that corporate experience, I think it helped me. I never worked for an agency. I never worked at that level. I literally moved out to LA and realized, wow, there's no one helping individuals. There's no one helping people. There's no one that can deliver a website, a social media strategy, a social media campaign at really an affordable level for an individual, not a corporate budget. And so I kept it lean from the beginning. And in doing that, I built, I kind of became the guy to call, specifically with TV hosting in LA. If you need to build your brand, call Phil. And I'm really proud of that I kind of figured that out on my own. Satisfy a need. That's why I bring that up so much, because I'm really passionate about it, because it's how I've doubled my business every single year. Now I'm at the space where it's more than I can handle. So I've got a team. It's not just the Phil show.
You're
And
not old
having
enough to be able to answer, I wish I would have question, are you? That was a stupid question for you.
No, I mean, I wish I would have started delegating sooner, but I'm still proud of everything that's happened leading up to this point. And that's been a big lesson this year. This year is less about me, grow my business, make more money, blah, blah, blah. That's not even that's not even my focus this year. My focus is to build my team, have a proper setup where my team, all experts in what they do, can deliver a really amazing final product, and it doesn't always have to be me. And this frees up my time to spend doing what I love to do, which is creating content, having time to think about a book, then my content, what I share on stage in front of hundreds and sometimes thousands of people. This is exactly what my time needs to be spent doing. Instead of slaving away, it's spent creating content and thinking about things. And for quite a while, I've not had the time to do that. And I'm excited that I'm now, even in the last month, having time to focus on doing all of these things that I really love to do.
The this or that round.
So this is the quick response round. 10 quick questions. Just 2 rows here. Try not to think about the answer too much.
Okay.
And you're only allowed to say the word both on one occasion.
Oh, I love this rule. Great.
Email or Twitter?
Twitter.
Audio or video?
Audio.
Affiliates or display advertising?
Display advertising.
Facebook or Google+?
Facebook.
Online press releases or one-on-one relations?
One-on-one relations.
Paid search or SEO?
SEO.
Email contact form or telephone number?
Email contact form.
Website or app?
Website.
Social subscriber or email subscriber?
Social subscriber.
Oh, and local marketing or global marketing?
Global marketing.
There wasn't one both in there. Wow.
No. I hate when people say both. It should be illegal. You shouldn't be allowed to say both. You have to make a decision.
And social subscriber. Will it ever move to email subscriber?
No, it won't ever move. I mean, I may be more welcoming to the whole email marketing, email list situation, but especially in the work that I do, where I'm working with hosts and I'm working with experts who want to get on television, casting directors, managers, agents, gatekeepers are looking at people's audiences. And so that's all public facing. So the number of Twitter followers you have, Facebook, all of these things, that's what my clients need to secure a second season as a TV host or to get a gig, because not only did they bring talent to the table, they also bring an audience. So that's why, for me, social subscriber is more important.
Very well explained.
The $10,000 question.
If I was to give you $10,000 and you had to
You
spend it,
should.
if over the next few days, and you had to spend it on one single thing, what would you spend it on, and how would you measure success?
Do I have to spend it on something business? I might spend it on a vacation.
If you can justify that as being worthwhile and having an ROI from that, then go for it.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know. God, I might stick it in my bank account and save it. And I would measure my success by not touching it.
There's not very good interest rates available at the moment, though, is there?
No, it's true. I would. What would I do? Well, I just invested, obviously, in audio equipment and video equipment and little tripods for Periscope and all these types of things. So I probably wouldn't spend it there. I would. I don't even know. I don't even have a good answer for you.
But it would involve content production by the sound of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would probably use it to hire my team to create more content. So my team helps me and clients with a number of social media platforms. So we create content for our clients on Twitter, Instagram. I would probably use it to build up some more activity and engagement. So I'd be hiring my team to help me even with more areas of my business. So probably Instagram, a few other platforms I would think about, maybe Periscope, have some of my team help me with that. I'd probably use it internally for something like that.
And do you think generally it's better off someone like you as the face of the business creating the content and having other people syndicating it? Or can you get to a stage where other people can create the content on your behalf and mimic your voice, or is that not really possible?
It's very possible because that's exactly how I do it. I
Okay.
hate to burst the bubble, but yes, I've done a good job. If you can't tell whether I wrote my tweets or someone else wrote it, I have a content creation team that help me pin, tweet, post, blog, send likes on Periscope or hearts. I mean, I have to because there's only one of me. And so when they call me in LA, when they call me from Access Hollywood, and they're like, Phil, we need you to talk about Beyonce at 11 a.m. Can you get here in an hour? I have to be ready for that. That's an important thing for my brand. So I have a team that helped me out with all of these things. My tweets are written for the next 2 weeks. I've approved them. We've scheduled them. And now, of course, I check in on Twitter about 15 to 20 times a day to watch the engagement and to respond real time with engagement. But my content is all created. Everything is a system, as you've already learned this from me. I have a system for everything. So there's a system in place to create my content, and I certainly use a team to help make that happen.
But you always do the engagement yourself.
Always do the engagement myself, and I always approve every single tweet that's written for me beforehand to make sure that it's on brand and make sure that it sounds like me. But, giving my team the opportunity and the feedback, they're able to totally craft stuff in my voice. That's the beauty of it, So it doesn't always have to be me. It doesn't always have to be you. When you start to trust and give feedback to your content creators, that's what we get hired for. That's the majority of my business, is helping create content for clients that don't have time. And they don't have time because their time is spent doing whatever it is they love to do and something that earns them money so that they can afford to hire me to create their content. People that are hosts and that are experts shouldn't be spending their time writing tweets. They can trust us, with really amazing systems in place to find this content and to write it in their voice. We create content, client profiles where we talk about, we discuss the tone of voice, the content, the topics, everything is laid out and approved by the client beforehand. So we break it down into a science. It's really cool.
My number one takeaway.
Well, Phil, you've offered so much information, so much great information. In fact, I didn't want to stop you, and I've just kept you so long. So hopefully you didn't have anywhere else to go. But
No, you're good. You're good.
what would you say is the number one takeaway? What's the single most important step that our listeners need to take away and implement within their businesses?
Yeah. Remember that it's not about you. Successful brands are built when we make it about them, when we satisfy a need like any good business does. So make it about the person that you're selling to or that you're offering something to. And so it means that you won't really even have to spend time and effort into marketing or advertising because you have such a built-in need. You're such an expert in that area or niche that people will call you because you're the person to call for this. That's who you want to be. And you'll get there if you make it about them, not you.
Wonderful. Well, and thank you, dear listener, for joining us as well. If you like what you heard, I'd really appreciate your feedback. So just go to digitalmarketingradio.com/iTunes and please leave an honest rating and review. It would be absolutely fab to hear from you. And of course, it would help to improve the ranking of the show in iTunes. And finally, I'm also hosting a brand new live show every Friday called This Week in Organic. So head over to thisweekinorganic.com to find out more about that. But that's all for now. Adios. And thank you so much, Phil. You're a wonderful guest.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.